Chair Lear, let's try to quickly get through law and licensing.
I think
And
I'm
then
on item,
decide when we need a break. What's
I'm
that?
on item 13.6, is that right?
Yes.
The committee moves that the board approve R277609 standards for local education agency discipline plans and safety interventions, draft 1 on second and final reading.
Thank you. Discussion to the motion, Board Member Earl.
Yes, line 81, 82, it specifically talks about surveys. Not that we haven't exhausted this, but my understanding from standards and assessment meeting last month, we were going to thoroughly discuss this. This has to do with the discrimination-free and what's the other word? Harassment-free schools. And I think there needs to be clarity on exactly what this survey is, who's going to construct it, what the ethical standards are around it before it's moved forward. I'm asking that it be, as we're continuing the dialogue about 428 in standards and assessment, that it be in association with that instead of moving this forward at the time, unless there's further clarification on the use of the surveys here and other mechanisms for creating that policy.
Okay, are you speaking against it or amending? Well, sorry.
I think my motion would be to have this item, I hate to push stuff into standards and assessment, but we already last month talked about having survey information coming so that we could address this issue there. So I'm not sure
The substitute motion?
putting it there. So
Can we see the rule on the screen?
it's line 80.
I may have it.
Yeah, 81, 82, I believe. There's just not clarification on whether they can design their own surveys or exactly how this is going to roll out.
So where is this language?
This is in association with the House Bill 428. We're to change our policies.
Okay, I just want to see
relevant.
what you're talking about. Survey right there on 82 are informed by data obtained by any regularly occurring safety or health related survey, including a school's climate survey as described in R277623.
Are you making a substitute motion, Board Member Earl?
Yes, I'd like to make the motion that this be, maybe you're gonna have to help me with this, held until we have further discussion about this, which I understood was supposed to be happening tomorrow in our meeting because we requested it last month.
You can move it to the Standards and Assessment Committee.
I would like to move it to the Standards and Assessment Committee.
She can move it to a committee, not necessarily specific.
Okay, to a committee for further clarification on the survey and other data. I think to only use survey data would be not an accurate way of finding discrimination in schools or creating a discrimination-free. Anyways, I'm speaking to it, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, so my understanding
I'll
is
second that.
the earliest this would happen would be, it would have to go back through executive and it would have to be put in a committee, and the earliest this would be addressed in the committee would be in August, correct? Are there any time constraints that would make this not good for the people who are impacted? Board, Jeff Van Holten.
To answer that specific question, potentially, if you do August committee, it would be September full board, October public comment, effective November. So that would be, you wouldn't be able to delay it beyond the August because you have to have it in effect by November to meet your statutory requirement for the rulemaking. So you could delay it just to August, but then you cannot delay it beyond that without needing to let the Administrative Rules Committee of the legislature know why you have delayed.
So we could pass it today for all the parts of the rule, and then this piece could be requested by the board today, maybe, to be addressed further in a committee and potential rule change later.
Yes.
That could be a different motion. That's not necessarily the motion that Board Member Earl has made. Her motion is to send the entire rule with all the edits currently back to a committee. And I'm happy to address the questions if that's something you all want me to do as well.
Go ahead.
Those lines that reference the survey, so House Bill 428 does require that an LEA, when they update their bullying policies, that they use the school climate survey data to inform the updates to their policies. So that is why we were making this amendment originally, because it is required by House Bill 428. Board Member Earl is correct that there was an additional phrase added here for any regularly occurring safety or health related survey. The reason for that being added is LEAs are not prohibited from using any additional surveys that they have to inform the policy updates that they do make on a regular basis and are required to by code for their bullying policies. So we added that in here because there was a concern that using a one-time, one-off survey versus regular occurring surveys that have trends that you can extrapolate would not be the best practice for informing updates to your policy. So we did add that in there to give a nod and an encouragement to LEAs to use regularly occurring surveys that they can extrapolate actual data trends from rather than one-time surveys. I will say this as well, though. It is additional. You do not need that line in here because LEAs are not prohibited in any part of this rule or code from doing whatever they choose to inform their policy updates anyway. So you could strike that line. You do need to at least require the school climate survey portion because that is from House Bill 428.
Okay. So do you want to withdraw your motion, Board Member Earl, or amend it in some way to pass this part and then look at language you may want to add to it? It sounds like they're not prohibited from using other means, but maybe the standards and assessment wants to add something in, some other things that are listed in the rule that they could use.
So what survey do we have that actually does this?
The school
That's what I want to know. Does it actually address discrimination and harassment?
We don't have a survey. It's an LEA survey. Can you go back to the rule?
That's what I'm saying. And then some of the LEAs, are we using ethical practices in this? I mean, this is the concern with the previous survey, is what are they using? Are they ethically using those surveys? So that's where my concern lies here. We're just opening the door for something that and I understand that Representative Hollins passed this during the legislative session, but is it the best practice for getting this information?
We could make a motion to seek legislation change. But
what's that?
You could make a motion when we get to legislative, issues on agendas to seek legislation change to change that if that's the will of the board.
Can I speak for a second?
Yes, Chair Lear.
This is required by legislation. This is just like any other, like we saw earlier, a requirement under special education that some board members may not like, but it is something required by, I forget the bill number, Representative Hollins. We can't just not do it, and the time for doing it is close to when we have to have it done to satisfy the legislature. So
I realize that.
Then I think we can't not do this, but could we not pass the rule and then refer to standards and assessment for further discussion, or what Chair Davis suggested for a legislative revisit?
Vice Chair?
Yeah.
Can I respond?
Yes, let's hear really quickly from Angie Stallings, and then we'll go back to you again, Board Member Earl.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vice Chair Davis. I'm sorry, I do not have a hand raising ability when I'm sharing my screen, but I did want to just answer the question, what is this survey and where can you find it? The survey is the climate survey, school climate survey, which the board approved and incorporated by reference in R277623. You can see the surveys here on our website under documents incorporated by reference. So I wanted to explain at least that portion, that it's referring to that survey.
Thank you.
May I address
Yes,
the
Board Member
previous
Earl.
question? Has that survey been tested to actually inform the very things we're asking in 428? That's what I'm asking. And if I'm going to, if we're going to, I guess that's my concern, is that it isn't. It doesn't have the research behind it to do what this bill has asked it to do. And that's concern. If we're going to add questions, it needs to be validated. It needs to go through a process, and that's what needs to be added here. Or we need to strike the reoccurring safety health related surveys. Maybe that just needs to be stricken, because I am familiar with the school climate survey.
So the only thing it sounds like we have control over at this point is to strike the recurring surveys, and then we could seek a legislative change to ask for a code change for the other.
Okay, I would like to make an amendment, or well, make a motion, or no, an amendment. That's what it would be.
But
I don't think I can withdraw my motion now. It would have to be.
I don't think, did we get a second on that first one? I think you can.
No, and you haven't reread it either, Chair.
Yeah. So you
Okay.
can do
Not did.
a different
We did
motion.
receive a second.
It did get a second, but you have not repeated it to the floor.
I have not repeated it to the floor. So do you want to withdraw that and do this one?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that we strike. Okay, now I don't see the wording in front of me.
He's typing it right in right here.
Okay. The lines read, yeah.
Yes.
You'll need a second on that. Does Matt want to do that?
Motion, Board Member Earl. Do you want to read this? Is this what you want?
Yes,
Okay, there's a motion to amend lines 81 to 82 to read are informed and updated by data from a school's climate survey as described in R277-623. Board Member Hyman, do you still second?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, a substitute motion on the floor. Actually, no, just amendment. Anyone would like to speak to the amendment? Can we vote, Board Member Earl, since you've already spoken to this, or do you want to speak again? Okay, please vote. This passes with Board Member Hanson opposed. Board Member Lear, I didn't see your vote.
I voted for it.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. So then we have a motion on the floor that the board approve R277-609 standards for local education agency, LEA discipline plans and emergency safety interventions, draft 1, as amended on second and final reading. I'm seeing no hands, please vote. This passes all in favor, except for a no vote from Board Member Klein. Board Chair Lear.
Item 13.7, R277-401, only a continuation. The committee moves that the board continue R277-401, child abuse neglect reporting by education personnel, draft 1 on second and final reading.
Thank you. Seeing no hands, we have a motion on the board that the board continue R277-401, child abuse neglect reporting by education personnel, draft 1 on second and final reading.
Please vote.
Please vote. That passes. Board Member Lear, I can't see a vote.
I'm sorry, I voted aye. It goes away too fast.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Board Member Klein, did you vote also?
Yes, it was unanimous.
Okay, Chair Lear.
Item 13.8, this is a sunset review and recommendation for the pilot program for late enrollment dual immersion, language dual immersion. The committee moves that the board recommends the legislature take no action and allow the section of code to sunset on July 1, 2023.
Thank you. Seeing no hands, there's a motion on the floor that the board recommends that the legislature take no action and allow the section of code to sunset on July 1st, 2023. Please vote. That passes unanimously. Chair Lear.
Item 13.9, this is a UPAC sunset review and recommendation. The committee moves that the board recommend that the legislature remove the sunset date for UPAC.
Thank you. Seeing no hands, there's a motion on the floor that the board recommend that the legislature remove the sunset date for UPAC. Please vote. This passes unanimously.